Hello. Welcome. Super excited, you guys, to talk about is it enough? This is such a big topic. All right, let's get started. So, why this session? Oh, you guys. This question annoys me. I'm going to be totally honest. This question actually makes me a little bit frustrated. Now, if you've asked me this question, it's okay. I forgive you. It's not you. What frustrates me about this question is that I see bondage. Every time I hear this question asked, I see anxiety. I see fear. And we talked about that this morning or afternoon, depending on your time zone. But earlier today, we talked about really, that's not how God desires for us to live. And so when I hear people, I see that they are plagued with this question. I see that they are going to bed guilty, full of shame, doubt, feeling like they aren't enough, feeling like they're failing their kids, feeling like they can't do this, feeling like they're not cut out for this, feeling like they're messing them up, feeling like they can't possibly do it through high school. How are they ever going to prepare their kids? That one day their kids are going to look back and blame them, that other people are going to judge them. This is all I see when people ask this question. And so for me, it fills me with this like righteous anger towards the enemy, who is really the one that is attacking you and plaguing you with this doubt and insecurity. So it does frustrate me. And so I would love help getting this message out to as many people as possible, because for me, I feel like this needs to be broadcasted, whether it's about homeschooling or not. This question that we parents ask ourselves, that we people, humans, ask ourselves, and are so comparing and critical, it's wrong. It's wrong. It comes from a wrong root. And when we get to the root of the question, we really can see that picture. And that's why it frustrates me. So I'm defensive. I'm defensive for you guys. I'm defensive because I've asked this question before, and I want to be honest. I don't want anyone to put me on this pedestal and think, you know what, Rebecca has never asked this question. I mean, she just has all this confidence. No, I get from the outside, definitely I go to bed at night, and there are so many times that I feel plagued with, are you doing enough? You are failing. I have heard those words in my head over and over and over and over and over again. Anyone that is aware of what I do, I work, I run a company, I am creating, I am writing, I am a CEO. We are traveling right now. I'm trapped in a bus with my kids, with my family. I have no escape. I have no quiet corners. You want to ask me how I'm like constantly feeling about the fact, like, am I doing enough as a parent when my kids are wanting to spend more time with me? My husband wants to spend more time with me. I'm barely homeschooling right now. True story. And this is really important for us to have this like baseline to go off of. I am not some superstar over here doing all the things. I'm not doing all the things, and I'm definitely not doing all the things very well. Ask my team, ask my kids, ask my family, ask anybody. I drop balls all the time. So I definitely get asked this question. I get asked this question in my heart. I get attacked with this at night. This is when the question seems to come up. It's late at night, and I get attacked with doubt and insecurity. And I will tell you what I have learned along the way, and that is I don't put up with this. I don't put up with this. I have not gained victory in every area of my life. I am right there with you in the trenches in so many things. But with this, I would say 99% of the time, the enemy tries to come at me with this, I'm going to push right back because I don't put up with this question. I can't. If I sat down and truly allowed myself to just feel shame and guilt and all the things the enemy's throwing at me, I would not get back up. The only way that I can keep going is to constantly take that thought captive, constantly take that lie and say, no, not today, Satan. I'm telling you, like, this is big. This is the only way I can do what I do, is that I do not receive this question. So yes, I still feel it. Yes, I still have doubt and insecurity. Yes, things still come at me from the outside. Other people judge me all the time. They see my house. They see my kids. They see what I do. They see that I'm not, I should be at home with the kids more. I should be doing this more. I mean, people have all sorts of opinions about me. Let me tell you, go look online. You'll find them. People have many opinions about me, but at the end of the day, I base my identity. Am I enough? That question is between me and God. That's it. My husband does not decide if I am enough. My kids do not decide if I am enough. No one in the world decides if I am enough. Not even I decide if I am enough. Because if I ask myself that question, I'm going to be like, heck no, I'm not. Only God. I go to him when I have this question. I say, am I doing what you have called me to do? Am I being obedient? Am I doing the best that I can? I'm getting way ahead of myself. But you guys, this is so key. From me to you, this is so incredibly key. I go to the Father, and when he says, well done, you are doing such a good job, boom, then everything else is silenced. Nothing else matters. I am doing what I am called to do. So yes, I get asked this question. Yes, I definitely still feel it, but I do walk in victory on this front because I no longer give it permission over my life. And this is my hope for you in this session. By the end of the session, I hope that you walk away from this no longer receiving this question from anybody else, or when it comes at you or from within you, that you take this thought captive and you have a new and renewed perspective about parenting and about homeschooling and about what God has called you to do and about your identity. So the first thing that you have to ask yourself is, what is your measuring stick? This is so important. We all have measuring sticks. We all have things that we decide who we are, and we are asking ourselves this question and determining the answer to this question based on where we fit on this measuring stick. The problem is that it's not just where we fit on this measuring stick. We first have to define what measuring stick are we even using. The reality is this measuring stick is, you have no idea. Most of you have no idea, because you're coming to me, you're going to everybody you possibly can saying, how do I know it's enough? Is it enough? What are you doing? Well, surely if you're doing this, then I should be doing this. We are looking for the measuring stick. Is public school the measuring stick? Is private school the measuring stick? Is that homeschool mom the measuring stick? Is this guru the measuring stick? This book I read, maybe that's the measuring stick. I mean, truly, someone out there has a measuring stick. Just tell me what it is, so I can measure myself and determine where I fit on this. This can be all sorts of different things. This can be comparison with school, comparison with other homeschoolers, our expectations. You guys went to public school, you went to private school, you have this picture in your head of what you think it's supposed to look like that you are constantly measuring up. Your homeschool, which by the way is vastly different than a public school experience, you are constantly measuring it up to, because you are trying to determine, how can I make it match what I experienced? It could be curriculum pressure. You get your books, and you guys, some of you gather round users, maybe you're not a gather round user. It doesn't matter what curriculum you use. It is a real thing to feel pressure from your curriculum. You open the book and the teacher's guide tells you that you should be doing this and you need to check this off, and you feel like you can't stop and you have not completed the lesson, and you don't have that feeling of satisfaction unless you've done everything on the list. Now, your kids may be melting down. You may not be into it. No one is connecting anymore. Everyone is fighting. Doesn't matter. We have to finish the lesson. Curriculum pressure. And you are constantly measuring yourself based on how much of the curriculum did you finish. Oh, guys, we're coming up to summer. I mean, how many of you are finished? Are you homeschooling through the summer because you are epic? Or are you homeschooling through the summer because you actually fell super far behind and you have to in order to keep up? I mean, we got to figure out where we fit with our curriculum, because we are slaves to our curriculum. Is your measuring stick your curriculum? Is it commitment to the plan? You sit down and you decide, this is all the things that I need to do. This is what I need to get done. And if I do not get this done in a day, then I'm not successful. You are determining your success based upon what you checked off your to-do list. Or is it FOMO, fear of missing out? And honestly, I almost think this is the biggest one. I would say new homeschoolers often compare themselves with school. I would say veteran homeschoolers, we compare ourselves with other homeschoolers and or FOMO. We are so worried about what we might be missing out on, and there are so many good things out there. So many good things out there. There is new curriculum all the time, new resources, new printables, new free things, new curriculum. I mean, like, you guys, you never stop. We could fill up our days over and over and over and over again. And we do. We look and we see there's a nature study curriculum. There's a spelling curriculum. There's a grammar curriculum. There's a vocabulary curriculum. We add, because it all looks good. And maybe it all is. But at the end of the day, we're so busy doing all the things, and our motivation is that we don't want to miss out on something good, that we just become an absolute slave to what we're doing. It was a couple years ago when I was first starting Gather Round, one of the practices that I did, and in fact, I feel like we should have a contest right here and right now for those of you that are willing to do this fun little activity with me. I took all of my school books, all of them that I was using. I'm not talking about I filled rooms with school books. I truly was a curriculum hoarder. Some of you think you are, and you're not. If you compared yourself to what I was, ask my husband. But it's okay. I pulled out just what we were using. I'm talking the spelling curriculum, the language curriculum, the reading curriculum, the writing curriculum, the grammar curriculum, the vocabulary curriculum, the science curriculum, the social studies curriculum, the geography curriculum, the art curriculum, the Bible curriculum. Times 5 grades. I threw it all on a bed, and I looked at this heap. I actually took a picture of it, and I was like, this is why I'm overwhelmed. Why do I feel like this is so much? Why do I feel like this is this mountain before me? Why do I do school from morning until night? Why am I not getting anything done in my day? Why have I lost my joy? Because I am a hamster on a wheel and I am running full speed ahead. I am accomplishing nothing. None of us enjoy school anymore, and all I do is run. Why was my motivation for that? Because it was good things, because I didn't want to miss out on what could be a good thing for my family. Too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. You need to ask yourself, what is your measuring stick? Those of you who have pen and paper right now, I highly encourage you to sit down and actually screenshot this, write down the answer to this question. What are you measuring up your homeschool to? Who is determining for you what success looks like in your homeschool? Who is determining for you what success looks like as a parent? Who is determining for you what success looks like as a Christian, as a wife, as a husband, as a son, as a daughter, as a friend? Who is deciding for you who you are meant to be? And if you do not meet the criteria, then you are a failure. We can't even move on if we don't know the answer to that question. So sit down, write it down, pull up a note on your phone, pause this video. You can always rewatch it later. It's going to be fine. Okay. Whew. I have so much to say. This is so fun. Oh my goodness. Okay. Are you guys with me? Are you with me? We're good? Okay, we're good. So let's move on from this. Let's see, what's my next slide? Wait, I've got 2 different programs going, so I can see my notes on one. Oh, this is going to be fun. Okay, I'm going to show you, we're going to go to the academic side. And the reason I am is because how many of you, where's the hands up emojis, okay? I want to know how many of you, your question about is it enough is because you're comparing yourself with a school system and or your experience, and you are really academically asking that question. How do I know I'm going to be able to do enough academically? I'm not a teacher, so how am I going to be able to teach my kids if I'm not a teacher? I can't teach them high school because I don't know high school math. I don't remember high school math, so clearly I'm not qualified to do this. How many of you are asking yourself the question, am I enough from an academic perspective? I believe there's quite a few of them. I believe we should see this blowing up right now, and if we're not, then you're lying. No. Some of you aren't, and that's okay. That's good. But a lot of us are. And a lot of people who come to me are. I would say the vast majority of people who come up and ask me this question, it is from an academic curriculum perspective. So we're going to focus, we're going to zero in on that a little bit, and then we'll pull back at the end. So if it's not you, stick around. I've got more to say. So let's talk about how normal was decided specifically from an academic perspective. Are you guys ready? Are you tracking? It's going to be so good. Slide 3. Okay. This is how normal was decided. Oh my goodness. Okay. So here's our measuring stick, your measuring stick of, is my kid academically doing enough? Are they matching up with other kids their age? Are they matching up with their peers? Now, what we did is we, and collectively we, I'm talking about our nation, I'm talking about people in business suits somewhere who possibly don't have kids or did a very long time ago, but do not anymore for the most part. And if you are political, I'm sorry, but this is what we're talking about, okay? White coat people, we're not white coat, suited people who are professionals sitting in a desk somewhere far removed from the classroom, far removed from actual personal experience. They decided that we are going to do testing for children to determine what normal is. So they issued out standardized testing. And if you have to do standardized testing in your state, I'm sorry, I don't agree with it. But okay, so they issued out standardized testing, and they told everybody, I want you to take this test across schools, and we are going to determine where kids fit so that we can decide what we're even measuring, because they have to have a measuring stick. Schools have to have a measuring stick, or how can they possibly grade anybody? So they send out these standardized tests all across to students of all different ages and grades. And this beautiful red line is what they got back. They had all sorts of kids that were way up here excelling above and beyond, and a ton of kids in between. Then they had kids that were completely falling off way behind, not reading, not writing, struggling academically, really not fitting the mold of academics in any shape or form. And they drew this pretty little line in the middle, and they said, this is normal. Yeah, we have to sit there for a second. My husband always says, normal is what everybody else is, and you are not. This is normal. This is what you should all try to achieve. Everybody should fit here. Let's look. How many kids do you think actually hit that part of the black line where that hits and touches and intersects with the red? Not very many. Not very many. I don't know about you, but I am not looking for average. I am looking for extraordinary. I am looking to raise the kids that God has given me in the way that they should go, not the way that the world determines. I am not looking to fit them into a stereotype. I am not looking to fit them into a mold. I am not looking to fit them into what somebody else in some suit somewhere decided they should do at a certain age, at a certain grade, because they had to draw a line somewhere so that they can measure it. Really, they want to have quantifiable results. And so because of that, they had to draw this line so that there could be quantifiable results, so that they could feel good about themselves and say, check, look, we're growing and we're studying and we're improving, or we're falling off terribly, which is more the case today, okay? You have to know how this normal was decided. So I was scrolling through social media when I was actually preparing this session, and I came across this. This is from Alberta, for those of you in Alberta. Right? Okay. So it's complicated verbiage, so you don't have to read the whole thing. But I will just tell you this. Basically, PATs are a type of test in Alberta. They're provincial. So like a state test, it's a provincial test. So same thing. We do testing up in Canada. You guys do testing down here. No different. They did these tests, and there was an uproar. Why was there an uproar? Let me tell you. So what happened was they gave these tests to students, and they found out that, number one, in order to get schools to take this test, they offered them all sorts of incentives. If you do these tests, you're going to get this, you're going to get that. I mean, it was basically money. It was about money. So you take this test, you're going to get incentives, so your school will do better, because basically we need to see quantifiable results. So they wanted as many schools as possible to participate in this. The problem was this. If students could not read or could not write, had any sort of a struggle or anything like that, or were just not on par with other students of their age, they gave them an assistant to be able to read or write for them. Yay. I mean, that's great, right? That's what I encourage you as homeschool parents to do. Don't expect your kids to meet them on their level. That's all fine. The problem is how can you draw a line in the middle and determine that this is what normal is, when actually, in fact, those students, a large percentage of them, could not even read the test to begin with, let alone write their answers in it. So the actual test itself and the results that they are drawing a line and determining normal wasn't even real. Not only that, but they found that they were not giving the test to some minority group schools, such as Indigenous peoples. So it wasn't even a test taking into account all of the schools. So then the actual accuracy of the data was so flawed. This is not just in Alberta. This is everywhere. I would like to introduce you to what standardized testing really is. It's not real. It is a sham. The entire thing that you are basing your expectations and your measuring stick on, and you feel pressure to try to achieve, is literally based on nothing. It's not real to begin with. So we know we can't trust normal, but can we even trust the tests that determine that? So here, let's move on. Here, I've got to switch over to my thing. So let's take a minute to understand how we measure enough in the school system. The school system, and I would say education system, because there's some of you right now that are like, oh, yes, I know our school system is so broken. Is that one? Talking to you. Someone out there is like, our school system is so broken. But I am a home educator and I am just, let me ask you this. Are you still using these things to quantify your success as a homeschool parent? Because if you are, then you are trapped in the very same perspective of education that is broken to begin with. I am talking not just about the school system. I am talking about education in general. I am talking about our entire approach to education. And I come before you today and I tell you that I have seen it. I have seen it in kindergarten. I've seen it up to grade 12. Not only that, I've seen it in homeschool homes. Not only that, I have seen it in university and colleges. And I can tell you for a fact, based on my experience either in or watching or observing or experiencing or whatever it may be, that education as it sits is not preparing our kids for the future. It is not preparing our kids to change the world. It is not preparing our kids to stand. It is not preparing our kids to be prepared to give an answer. It is not preparing our kids to think independently. It is not preparing our kids to be out of the box. It is not preparing our kids to be creative or genius. It is preparing our kids to follow the instructions and the mandates that are given to them and to fit within the box and confines of society. This is education. And we fall into the same trap as home educators. We just do it at home. We say, oh, because we're doing it at home, but we're still following the same systems. Oh, we're doing so much better. Are we? Are we? So here's what education, the system of education, wants us to do. They want us to show what we know. They want to know, how much do you know? How fast can you articulate it to me? And how well can you articulate it to me? The problem with this approach is that it makes absolutely no room for poor communicators. If your child is a poor communicator, if they are behind, if they struggle with writing, if they struggle with reading, if they're just not super academic, maybe they more like to just speak things out, they're going to fail. They aren't even going to line up anywhere on that graph because it is not made for them, because the only thing we care about is I want you to take in the information I'm giving you and I want you to regurgitate it exactly as I've given it to you so I can tell that you were listening. Well, I'm sorry, is learning only about rote memorization? Because I highly disagree. I think learning is about being able to take information, critically analyze the information, come up with and discern your own opinion about that information, and then be able to give an educated and, because you have gained an understanding, a well thought out and well communicated answer. Not what everyone wants to hear you say, but your own thought out answer based on the information that was given to you. This is learning, but this is not what we do. This is not what we do in school. This is not what we do in most of our homeschools. This is not what we do in most curriculum that you use. It is all geared around the old model of education, which is read, write, regurgitate, test. Show what you know. Take it in, vomit it out. That's all I care about. And this is, I know it's uncomfortable. I know I'm making harsh statements and I don't know, I guess it's easier for me because I'm on a computer and not in front of you, but you guys, this is not, you can hear it, right? Is that really what we want? Is this really our value of what education is? We have to ask ourselves this question. Our kids are getting lost. We are losing our children in the process. And if you think that because you home educate that you are not losing your kids, I've seen it. I've seen it with people who have older kids. This is why they put them in school when they get to be in high school. It is not because they really aren't prepared to be able to teach them high school. It is because they can see their kids are getting lost. They're seeing the pieces fall because it's not that they were failing. It's that the model of education is failing. The entire model of education is broken, and we are trying to fit these broken pieces together and keep running with something. There is a better, it's not even a new way, there's a better way. There is a better way, but our entire perspective of learning and how we educate, it's broken, and kids get lost in the process. Okay, let's move on. So let's talk about how. Let's talk about how we actually learn. I feel like I need more of my coffee. I'm gonna get it. Okay. fun? Are we having fun? I'm having so much fun. Okay. So the way that we learn is really the one it should be. It should be the one on the, which is your left or your right. Look at that nice patterny. It's so nice. And then you look at the other side and it's like blah, 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 blah. Okay. So here's the thing. I'm going to give you an example of this. When I receive instructions for how to go to someone's house, I am incredibly visual. I'm so visual. I'm like, I need to see it. I need to see a map of it. I need to see a drawing of it. Don't just tell me on the phone, oh yeah, turn right on this road and then left on this road, and I'm gone. I am not auditory. I will never remember those things that you said. I need to see it. So what actually ends up happening, I'm so visual, in fact, that I will memorize something, I will read something, and I will see the pictures of it in my head. That is how visual I am. So when I'm going somewhere, I will often, like the first time, I'm looking at maps and I'm figuring it out and I have to zoom out. I need to get the context. I mean, where is north? I have no idea where north, south, east, and west is unless I see it on a map. I zoom out and I get my bearings. I'm like, okay, I'm south, that's north. And now I'm like, got it. So we go to somebody's house and I figure out where we're going. Now, yes, I followed the map. Here is the interesting part. The next time I go to that person's house, as long as it hasn't been months and months in between, I actually will, for the most part, remember exactly where I'm going. Not because of the map, not because of the visual, I'm reading a map in my head, but because I'm actually following identifiers that I picked up with along the way. So I remembered that rock. I remember I turned here. I remember that mountain. I remember this. Now, the second time I go to their house, I probably could get there, but I still have a little bit of doubt. It's like, I still want to see it again. So I pull up my map again and I follow it again. And by the third time, fourth time, I have now taken that same route so many times. I'm much more familiar with it until I can get to the point where I can have a conversation with my husband, not even think about where I am driving, and on autopilot, I get to the house that I'm going for. Don't even have to think about it. This is the way our brains work. We build pathways. Now imagine that your pathway is a little goat trail to begin with, okay? You talk one time about the subject you're teaching your child. Let's say you're talking to them about, I can't even think of a topic right now, the life cycle of a ladybug. Okay. You teach them about the life cycle of a ladybug and you do it one time and a little tiny goat trail has been formed in their brain. Congratulations. It's pretty. It's small. I mean, I'm not sure you'll be able to find where it was again, but it's there. It does exist. So let's say you want your kids to actually remember what they have learned. Well, you're going to have to go travel that goat trail again. You're going to have to travel it again and again and again so that it's actually building not just a tiny little trail, but a path that's easily to find and easy to identify. The more we build these pathways in our minds, the faster recall is for us. Now, here's the real genius of it. It is not that exact same pathway needs to be found. In fact, true mastery of something is not me being able to know that if I start here, I can end up there. True mastery of me knowing where this person lived would be if I had taken multiple different routes to their house, and no matter where I was, I could find where they were. That is mastery. So when we're talking about that in education realm, what we're talking about is using multiple different learning styles. You have built it with your hands. You have seen it. You have heard it. You've listened to stories. You've experienced it. You went on a field trip. You have done so many different things with the life cycle of a ladybug that by the end of it, your kid knows it off the top of their head and they will never forget it. Why? Because you built pathways, but you did it in a strategic way through experience and emotional connection and discussion and reading books and pictures and building things and making a lap book. And you did so many things related to it that you built a highway in their mind. This is the connected approach to learning. This is truly how to learn. This is not the current model of education. We do not do this. We teach them one time. We give them a list. We even say, these things are going to be on your test. You're going to need to study them so that you're going to be able to pass your test. So your child does. They study it. They learn it. They might even do well on their test, but they're not going to remember it. It's like that movie Inside Out. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I think that is the most genius movie. And what an amazing amount of discussions you are going to be able to have with your kids when you watch that show about emotions and control and all the things. Anyways, however, my favorite part is they go down and there's these, workers in her mind, and they are tossing things into the great abyss, memories. And they're going through it and they're like, what is this one? Oh, yeah, this was the blah, 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 blah. And they toss it into this great abyss. She doesn't need that. She doesn't need that. They throw these things from short-term memory. They're either storing them in long-term or they're discarding them so they'll never remember them. If our kids don't transfer information from short-term memory to long-term memory, who cares? Now, I'm going to really confuse you and I'm going to throw a wrench in this. Here's the thing. I actually don't want my kids to remember everything that they learn from K to 12. I don't want them to. There's absolutely no way. If you go back and you say, how much, well, you watch the show on TV, right? Are you smarter than a fifth grader? Most of us not, right? The reason is because we don't remember all that stuff. Is that because everybody failed us? Not necessarily. That's because we are not designed to remember absolutely everything that we learn from the second that we are born until now. There's going to be seeds planted. There's going to be things that we're going to remember. There's going to be nostalgic moments. There's going to be pieces and parts. But really, we're not going to remember all the information that was stuffed inside our brain. We're going to actually discard some of that that's less important as we don't use it over and over. And we're going to find and form new memories and new attachments with things that actually we're using. This is why you see people go through school, get a whole degree, not work for 5, 10, 15 years while they have children, and then try to enter the workforce again and feel like they don't know anything at all. Yes, the industry changes very quickly, but also if you don't practice what you know, your brain decides it's no longer needed. This is memory. This is the way we learn. This is the way our brains work. So we're going to add this to our argument against normal. The measuring stick is falsely made. Normal doesn't exist. The measurement system is broken. Results-based leaves little room for poor communicators. And the method of measurement is archaic. Testing the way it is done is fruitless. The read, regurgitate, remember for the sake of a test, it's fruitless. I do feel like it's important to throw in here. There's a lot of people that will then just decide that testing in and of itself is wrong. And you'll hear this in the homeschool world. You'll hear people come up to you and say, why are you even testing? Testing doesn't do anything. You're obviously very traditional. Well, I'm over here in Charlotte Mason world or whatever world I'm in, and we don't even believe in that because that's wrong and I'm right. Disagree. Testing is beneficial. Testing can tell you what you know about something, but here's when it's useful. It's useful when you walk up to someone and you say, how much do you know about the timeline of creation? And you're like, I think I know the timeline of creation. Let's see. Take this little test and find out. So you find out from this dry run approach, okay, how much do I really actually know? Because I don't even know how much I know. And then you can quantify that and you can say, hey, I actually do, or maybe I don't know it as well as I thought I did. When you have a test that is just thrown at you that you couldn't prepare for, it will actually tell you what you do know about the subject and what you don't. That's a useful tool. It is not a garbage tool. It's a useful tool. However, if you study only for the sake of a test, that is no longer a useful tool because we're taking the motivation and we're making the only motivator to be able to pass something. We are stuffing information inside their brain so that they'll be able to regurgitate it to us. Again, our entire approach to education is focused on the wrong things, and it is not bringing about the outcome that we truly desire. So now we have educational milestones. You've got your outcomes, you've got ages and stages. My child needs to learn to read by the time they're 6. I mean, they're 7, they're 8, they're still not reading. Clearly, there's something very, very wrong that we need to figure out what's happening. Okay, how much do you know at a certain age? Okay, so you have these outcomes with your kids. You want to know, for us up in BC, I remember at one point it was, your child needs to learn about ancient Greece in grade 5. Well, I did ancient Greece as a family, and one of my children was in grade 6, and one of my children was in grade 3, and one of my children was in grade 2, and one was in grade 1. Can we just count that towards their grade 5? We covered it. No, because they have to learn about it in grade 5. Why? Honestly, ask yourself this question. This goes back to the root of what I was saying before. Our kids are not going to remember everything they learned in K to 12. They're not. The main purpose of education, write this down somewhere. The purpose of education is learning how to learn and how to communicate. It is learning how to think for yourself. It is learning how to read and write ultimately so that you can understand and you can articulate and you can communicate. That is it. That is the role of education. That is what we're hoping to get to by the time our kids are grade 12. If they can read, if they can write, if they can do basic math, and if they can articulate and understand things and be able to think for themselves, congratulations. Everything else, there's Google. Guys, there's Siri. They can go find something anywhere. Anything they possibly need to know for anything they possibly need to do, they can go and find online. So we're not actually trying to have them master ancient Greece in grade 5. If we shift our perspective and instead say, hey, I'm actually just teaching my child to learn, then we could start to say, well, hey, learning how to learn, if that's my main focus, it could be about anything. It could be fun. We could actually enjoy it because we can learn in life all around us. We did a psychology lesson with our kids the other day on our drive. I was reading in the front seat. It took us hours and hours and hours, and I'm pretty sure we did not even do the student pages. Why? Because we went into discussion. We told stories. We talked to our kids. We leapt into all sorts of different things and went back and through history and time and talked about our own lives and what that was like and talked about when they grew up, and we reached each of them at their different levels. We had the best conversation. Not sure my kids would agree with you, but we had the best conversation, and it was off script, and it was based on us just learning together as a family. I think if we shift our perspective and we stop worrying so much about ages and stages and they have to hit this line at this age so that they're the same as everybody else, when we start to understand that everybody else is not there anyways, when we start to understand that the whole purpose of education and really K through 12 is just being able to read and write and communicate, and you have until they're 18 to do that, if really we start to reframe our perspective even of understanding what post-secondary education is and the fact that so many people don't even need it now to be able to do the things they need to do, because even the people that have it possibly aren't even prepared for what they're supposed to do anyways. If we reframe our perspective of education and what this entire thing is all about, it changes everything. It changes everything. Honestly, nothing is the same when you reframe it and you start to think about it that way. So, this is like a side note. I just had to put it in here. Some of us are up in BC and we're like, what are you talking about? Up in Canada, this is like unheard of. Down here in the States, I did a simple search. Your colleges, not just colleges, universities, top of the line universities, accept homeschoolers. See, down here, you name your homeschool, whatever you want to name it. Sounds professional. You named it School of Spooners, I don't know. And then you give your kids their own grades and you write their transcripts and you send them off to university. Now, yes, they still are going to have to reach the same criteria as other kids. They're going to have volunteer experience and all the other things to get into the colleges and programs they want to get into. However, we are so worried that we are going to fail our kids, that they're not going to be able to do what they need to do, what they want to do, that they're not going to be prepared for the calling that God has on their life. But I'm telling you that cannot be our main focus. And when it is, you will not have joy. You will not have peace. You will not love this experience. And you will go to bed asking yourself constantly, am I doing enough? Because your entire focus is around that. You want to start feeling that peace. You want to start enjoying this. You want to start just following what God has for your family. You stop worrying so much about that. Especially if you are a family who is running after Jesus, let me tell you, we don't have to be so focused on that. I have seen God open and shut doors for people that had no credentials, people that had even look at my story. I have nothing. I have no degrees. I have nothing on my shelf that I can say I have this bachelor's in this or I have this and that. And yet I'm running a company, I'm writing, I'm a publisher. I don't have anything behind me that gives me that validates me for that, but God opened doors and I was obedient to him. We are so worried that this is the only path and this is what we have to do. Actually, let me tell you this. My kids, your kids could graduate even with nothing. No diploma, nothing under their belt. And if they truly desired to do something in their life, when they were actually motivated and they actually knew what God had called them to do, they could do anything they wanted. It could take a test or a 1-year program to be able to catch up to where everybody else is, and they would be just fine. As long as they have the ability to learn, as long as they have a computer and they have Google and they have the motivation to do it, your kids are going to be able to do whatever God calls them to do. This is not all on your shoulders. This is not all up to you. And if you want to base your entire education experience and your parenting and your homeschool and your family on striving, you're going to have regrets. You're going to have regrets at the end of the day because you are not enough. I am not enough. I'm going to fail. I'm going to make mistakes. Instead, I have to follow what God says, and I get to enjoy the process. God does not just leave me this massive burden and weight and then say, you better do a good job. He wants us to experience joy and life and connection and relationship as a family. So you have to ask yourself what you're hoping to achieve. Is it a GPA, a certain college or career path? There's nothing wrong with that. Your kids might decide that. Your kids might say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be this. And college or university might be the only way for them to get there. So if that becomes what you want to do or your child wants to do, that becomes your measuring stick. And there's nothing wrong with that. And some free homeschoolers out there may judge you completely and say, don't you know that you can have freedom? Yeah, I do. But this is what we're doing. Because again, you don't ascribe to their measuring stick. You are following what God says for your family, and you're raising that child in the way that child should go. But for many of us, and I would say most people, and this is why they're so filled with discontent, they come up to me and they say, how do I know this is enough? And the reason is because they're using a school measuring stick. They are looking to the world to decide for them what is enough. But what they truly desire in their heart is that their kids are going to have good character, they're going to have strong faith, they're going to have good relationships with one another. That is what their heart desires. And so those two things are opposite. Can you be academic and have good character? Absolutely. But if this is all you are running after, if you are doing what I was and you are doing a heap of curriculum so you don't miss anything and you keep adding more and more and more and you are the hamster on the wheel going round and round and your kids are fighting and everybody hates it, you are not focusing on the things of the heart. There's not enough time. There simply is not enough of you. You've chosen striving. You've chosen your own path. You have chosen that it is based on you. You've chosen that it has to look like this. And if it does not meet this line that somebody else has decided, then you are failing. Instead of looking to what God is saying to you, the line He has asked you to stand up next to, and specifically for each of your kids, that may be different. I have some of my kids are not academic at all. At all. Honestly, would be surprised. One of them is not academic at all, but I do know this. She is the most driven person I have ever met in my entire life, more driven than me. Okay, you guys think I'm driven? You haven't met my daughter. Incredibly driven. And I know that if she decides to do absolutely anything, she will do it. Not if I tell her, but if she decides, let me tell you, she's going to be able to do it. So I could see her doing very well academically if she so chose to. But I could also see her, she is so creative. I could see her not going an academic route at all, and instead going a creative route and not fitting into this academia line of this is the only way I can determine if I'm successful as a person or not, and instead becoming a dancer, a singer, a violinist, a teacher, a amazing, incredible, genius person. But her genius is not determined on a line of where she fits with her GPA. See, when I look at each of my kids, I see some that may follow that. I see some that have the potential to follow that, but may not follow that. And I see others that are just built differently. You are called for each of your kids. You can't have one measuring stick and decide, this is what is going to fit for everybody. This is my measuring stick. Therefore, you should all line up to it because this is the only way we can determine success as a family, as a whole. The only way I can sleep at night is if everybody does this. I can tell you right now, you're not going to get much sleep. Good reflection, and this is just thrown right in the middle. You notice how I did that? Okay. It's important to note. I would say most of us have definitely fallen into this trap, and this is pride. Are we holding our kids to this standard and this line because we want them to be a good reflection of us? And you can tell this when you go and you talk to people about your homeschool if you have pride. You'll feel it. You can tell. It just rises up in you. We want to be proud of our kids, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm talking about when you just feel like you are doing it all right and your kids are doing well. You can see it when your kids are not doing well. You see parents do this all the time. As soon as their kids are struggling, as soon as they are wrestling with something, they take it as a personal affront. They take it as a big, huge sign on their character that they are failing as a parent because their child is struggling. Their child has free will. They're going to make their own choices and their own decisions. But we as a society do judge based on what we outwardly see. And that person, unfortunately, has followed the world's perspective, has tried to please people rather than seeing what God has called them to do and going to the Father and saying, am I doing enough according to you? What you have asked me to do? Am I being obedient to you? Am I doing too much because I'm running after what the world is saying? Am I not doing enough because I haven't even turned and asked you what I'm supposed to do? See, when you seek first his kingdom, all these things will be added to you. When you seek first the Father, when you ask him about that child and that child and that child, he is going to give you unique and specific keys. He is going to give you ideas. He is going to give you purpose over that child's life and how you can partner with him to help raise your child in the way they should go, not the way you think they should go. Are we so busy running after the world's definition of normal that we have forgotten the kingdom definition of normal? But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. We are called to be set apart. We are not called to be the world's definition of normal. We are not called to line our kids up on a stick, on a measuring stick of academia. We are not called to look at any other homeschool family or what any curriculum might tell us or any pressure we might be feeling or even what outside influences and opinions may be about our family. We are not called to listen to outside voices. We are called to partner with our spouse and to partner with the Holy Spirit and to seek what God is saying over our kids, and we are called to be obedient to that. That is it. And that's probably going to look different than what you think it is because we are called to be set apart, not normal, not average. Different. Different. And our model of education is not different, but it should be. There is a kingdom education principle. God wants to rewrite. I believe this with all my heart. God is rewriting education. When he laid the idea for Gather Around Homeschool on my heart, it was first and foremost my family. And it was, what if you could do school with all your kids together? It was this picture that I had given up on with him in the center of it all, finding love in learning, connecting things to all the different subjects and seeing how things are webbed and woven together throughout history and time, seeing themes, seeing the Father's heart, seeing how everything points to Jesus. What I wanted for education was not something that even existed. I've not seen this out there. This is what makes this different. So when you're asking, is it enough specifically with Gather Around Homeschool curriculum, that's going to be determined by what measuring stick you're using. Because if you are using the world's measuring stick, if you are deciding if your kid is going to be normal and average and fit in with their peers, probably not. Probably not. Because that is not my goal. That is not my aim. That is not my purpose. I don't even think about that. I instead think about how can we find that child where they're at, meet them, and pull them in. That's all. That's it. That is my goal. I see this in churches. I see this in Sunday school. I see this in books I read. I see this in textbooks all the time. I see it done well sometimes, rarely. I see it done poorly all the time. I see churches and sermons and people trying to bring in all ages, or trying to, let's just make it fun and light for the young kids, or how do we just, let's keep it up here and the young kids will just kind of sit in. I watch my children and I see them just, they're checked out. I walk through sometimes museums and I see my kids check out. Not all of them, definitely have a few academic students who just love to read all that stuff and love all the facts, but I generally see my kids check out because they're at different stages and ages. My question is, with a large family, how can I look at all my kids with all their various needs and meet them where they're at with what they need in a way that still cohesively brings us together as a family? You may think that is impossible, and I am here to tell you this is not impossible. This is God's view. It is a kingdom method of education, and it is possible. It is possible because I've tasted and I've seen. And even if you've done Gather Round from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, you are seeing a massive change. And this change is coming about because I am seeing God is weaving. He is showing me a new pattern and a new method of education that is done in a way that dives deep and dips up and has similes and metaphors and things that will pull the younger kids in, and poems and stories, so that everybody is able to engage with it and keep it interesting and meaningful and purposeful and intentional and connecting to all their other subjects, but in a way that is not losing them in the process. This is possible. It is possible. And if you've given up on this, then I encourage you to ask God to reignite your hope again, because it is possible. And yes, you can do this. You can do this. Okay. Woo. More coffee. This is Caleb. He's my oldest. He's turning 15 in a month and a bit. And he was my guinea pig. He was my firstborn. And when we first started off homeschooling, we were, honestly, when he was 2, we were already starting off homeschooling. So in BC, you have multiple options, similar to, honestly, what I've seen most states. I feel like you guys, we call it different things, but it's very similar. In many places, you can either choose to be completely solo and on your own, or down in the States, you can do charter schools, right? Where you're underneath a school, you have a teacher, you have to do approved curriculum and meet certain outcomes at certain times that you get money. Yay! Same thing in Canada. Not all in Canada. Sometimes they don't even have the option of that. But some of the provinces, quite a few of them, have the option of being under a school and getting financing. But then you have to report and do all the things, or being on your own. So when my son was 2 years old and still in diapers, I had gone and purchased all the things, and we were doing school by the time he was 2. So now I have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old and a baby, and I'm already doing school. So by the time he was 3, I was already contacting schools to find out about registering him, enrolling him, because I wanted the funding and I wanted to homeschool as soon as possible in the very best way possible. When he was 5 years old, I was so ready. That kid was primed and ready. He knew his letters. We knew it, all the things. We were going to learn how to read. It was going to happen. And he's a keener, okay? You guys don't all know that word down here, but he was just this kid that was keen to learn. It just came easy for him. And we just, it was wonderful. We were excited. He was excited. I was excited. We had all the things. I bought him a little lunch kit. Okay. We started off homeschooling and it was fine for a while, but I was learning more and more who I was as a homeschool parent and some of my flaws as a person in general. Okay. So I'm a 2nd generation homeschooler. So my mom had homeschooled me and she'd done such a great job. And I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. And I always knew I had the gift of teaching. And so I knew that I wanted to homeschool my own children. That was the ultimate dream. So here I was living out my literal dream with my son. And I found myself incredibly impatient. I'm teaching him how to read and I'm showing him the same books and we're reading the same words over and over and over and we're sounding them out over and over and over. I'm talking one page to the next page to the next page. I'm like, at what point do you remember and build the goat trail to a path that this is cat? Like, how many times do we have to say k, at, t? I mean, it's been weeks now and it's not clicking. I remember getting really frustrated and turning and looking at him and he had tears in his eyes and he felt so terrible and I felt terrible and I was crying and he was crying and I was like, I'm done. I am not cut out for this. Surely, if I can't do this without killing my son's desire for learning, I'm done. I thought I would be better than this. I have learned I am not. I don't have the patience for this. I'm not as good as I thought I was. I can't do this and I won't. I stopped everything. I stopped all formal education. We had fun together. We did crafts, we did exploring, we did all sorts of things, but we did not one day of reading from that point on. 6 months, about half the school year, we didn't do anything. It was at least from Christmas. June comes around and a huge box came in the mail and I was like, let's try again. Now Sayla's in kindergarten. I mean, surely it's going to be better, right? And this picture here, this is the beginner's Bible. And I don't know how many of you have seen this, but this says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and it rhymes and it's pretty and it's fun. And Caleb sat down and he read this. He was turning 6, but we had not read, and we were still stuck on 3-letter words. There was no fluency there. And as I watched my son, as I watched him read and realized that this was not all on my shoulders and that it was going to click when it was going to click. And I saw the joy he had once again and how excited he was to read. I realized that I had put so much of this on myself. I had decided that it was all based on me. And that kind of pressure is not something that is sustainable, and it is not something that brings joy, and it is not something that brings peace. And the pressure I was feeling, I was putting on to him, and it was not bringing him joy, and he was not going to have a love of learning, and he was not going to have a love of writing. I look at my other son, he's a reluctant writer all through and through and through and through. I do so much of his writing for him. One point, I remember scrunching up a paper into a big ball and opening it up, this imperfect crumpled mess. And I said, "Is this paper perfect?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Your writing doesn't have to be either. Let's write on this today." You guys, we put this expectation on ourselves, and the only thing that does is put expectation on our kids. And our expectation, you have to ask yourself, where is it coming from, and is it right? Are we being motivated by the right things? And are we putting expectation in the right places? Are we seeing the fruit that we want to see in our homeschool? And if we are not seeing the fruit we want to see, then we need to ask ourselves some hard questions, and we need to redefine what we're doing and why we are doing it in the first place. This does not all rely on you. Your kids are going to have to make choices for themselves. They're going to make their own decisions. They're going to partner with you on learning, or they're not. Your spouse is probably going to have different ideas about the whole thing too. You guys are going to have to work this out, and it's going to be messy, and it's not going to be perfect. And our ideals and our expectations for this whole education thing are probably going to have to be rewritten one way or another. But I am telling you that God wants to partner with you, and his vision of education is far different than what you've currently known and experienced for most of you. For most of us, our school experience, our expectation of home education, for most of us, God's kingdom education method is very different. And we have an invitation to partner with him and to ask ourselves a question and base it off of what he says to us, rather than basing it off of what the world says. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open to you. Matthew 7:7. The root of the question is not, is it enough? It's, am I enough? This is it. This is what it all comes down to. Am I enough? This is one of the reasons it makes me so frustrated, because it is an attack of insecurity. It is an attack of doubt. It is an attack on your identity. It is the enemy coming at you and saying, you are failing, shame and guilt. You are not enough. You don't measure up. But God says, come to me, you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. God says that he has a plan and a purpose for you and for your children, and he will be faithful to complete it. God has a standard for your life, and he has a purpose for your life, and he has a purpose for the lives of your children. And if we would instead turn to him, if we would ask him, if we would seek our answer and our focus and our direction from him, rather than from the world, rather than listening to the voices, rather than listening to our own doubt and insecurity, I am telling you, we would experience a far different homeschool. It would be completely different, not just in your homeschool, but in your family in general. You have sibling rivalry. You don't feel connected. You don't feel like anybody even loves one another anymore. Not a fake thing. Okay, this is a real thing. And all families have this. We fight, and I mean, even our family, okay? It's not perfect. I'm not saying it should look perfect, but I am saying that you should love each other and you should love learning together. And if you've given up on that dream, and if you've decided that that is not possible and it just has to be a chore and it has to be something you check off your list, you have lost something. You have lost something in the process. And I believe that God wants to restore what you have lost. I believe that he wants to bring into your home a fresh revival. I believe he wants to touch your family. He wants to draw you closer together. He wants to put his finger on character issues in all of you and say, how can I bring you together in unity? God wants families united, not families divided. And he is bringing about revival in marriages and revival in families and revival in children and revival in education, you guys. And it starts in the home. It starts right here. It starts right now. And it starts with your perspective about parenting, about your home, and about who you are listening to. Who are you listening to? Because the only voice that you should be following is his. So I encourage you, if he's put on your heart, if you just have, little things that you're thinking of even right now, that you've had fear, or you've had doubt, or you've had insecurity, or you listen to what so-and-so is doing, or you were comparing yourself with somebody else, or you weren't even asking him because you were just so busy doing all the things. I encourage you to take what he has laid on your heart because he's put his finger on something. I encourage you, go from here and take a minute. Take a minute. Go and take a minute. Pray and ask God what he has for your family. Bring up each and every one of your children's names. Bring up your homeschool. Lift it up to him on an altar and say, I've been trying to do this on my own. I've been listening to all the wrong things and looking in all the wrong places, and I am not looking for a self-help book. I am asking you what you have for my family because I believe that what you have is better than what the world has. And I am sorry for trying to do this on my own because I'm telling you, he's going to put something in your hand. He's going to take off the burden. He's going to take off the anxiety and the stress and all the things, and you'll still have to battle the fear and the doubt, and you'll still have to do what I do and every day choose not to listen to the voices. You're still going to have to battle it out. It's not going to be perfect, but God wants to give you something else instead. For me, it was gather round. It might not be that for everybody. That's fine. But I do believe that what he laid on my heart was a picture of a new method of education. But it's not going to work. It's not going to work if you are still striving and looking for what the world tells you success is. Because I don't even think about that. The only thing I think about when I go into my units is what God is telling me to. How can I point it to him? How can I be obedient to who he's created me to be? And how can I pull in your kids and make it come to life in all their different ages and stages so that it is exciting once again and bring the joy back into your homeschool? So if you're asking whether gather round is enough, I hope this has given you your answer. And maybe that answer is it's you're not ready yet. Or maybe you won't ever be. Or maybe it just won't be a good fit. And that's okay. And God may have something totally different for you. That is okay. But I hope that in the end of this, take it all away. You instead go to him and you just ask him what he has. That's all I say. Ask him what he has. Because he does have a plan. I'm telling you, he does. Okay. That was it. That was most of my stuff. Oh my goodness, I have so many things to say about this. This is such a intense topic for me. But anyways, okay, I'm going to close off in prayer. I'm going to leave you guys with prayer. So let's do that. If you guys want to, I encourage you to put out your hands and just honestly, just imagine that you are giving God all your burdens and all of your expectations and all of the striving and all the things that you've been carrying on your shoulders that you need to give to him, that you need to lay at his feet. God, I just pray that as we bring you our burdens, as we bring you the things that we're carrying, as we bring you our fear and our doubt and our insecurity, the pressure that we have aligned with, God, I pray that you would forgive us of the things we've been listening to that are not your voice. I pray that if we've been aligning ourselves with different measures of success, if we've been chasing things that are not of you, if we have been listening to voices that are not of you, if we have been basing decisions on fear and doubt and insecurity rather than what you say and what you call us to, Father, I pray you would forgive us right now. I ask that you would take the burdens that are on our shoulders that we give to you freely. And I ask that instead you would fill our homes with your presence. Holy Spirit, we invite you into our homes. We invite you to come do a work in our children. We invite you to change their hearts. We invite you to change our hearts. We invite you to shift our perspective of education. We invite you to give us keys and insight and fresh vision and revelation for our families. We invite you to come and speak and move, God. We invite you to come and just invade our homeschool, to show us a new way of doing this. I ask that you would remove the fear and anxiety and you would give us joy instead. Joy. Joy. I speak joy over every single person that is listening to this message. I speak peace, peace that surpasses all understanding. I ask that you would teach us how to learn. I pray that you would help us focus on the right things. I pray we would listen to your voice and your voice alone. I pray you would teach us as a family to hear your voice. I pray our children would see us follow you and that they would follow in our footsteps, God, that their relationship with you would be real and vibrant because they've seen authentic in our homes. I pray that there would be revival in our families. I pray our children would love one another. I pray they would connect. I pray that our children would connect with us. I pray you would restore broken relationships between brothers and sisters and brothers and brothers and sisters and mothers and daughters and fathers and sons and wives and husbands. I pray that you would do a move in our families. I pray that you would come, Father. I pray you would come and bring revival upon our homes. I pray that you would just come and speak over our lives. I pray that you would come and remove the things that are not supposed to be there, shut the doors that have been opened, that you would give us revelation and that we would have insight into things that we need to deal with, God. I pray that even tonight we would have family meetings around the table. And God, you would just expose things that need to be exposed. I pray that our kids would start to come to us with things that they've been carrying, burdens they've been carrying, things that they have been just harboring inside, resentment, and that we would be able to just be uprooting things, God, and dealing with them. I pray that there would be a new peace that goes forth from this session into our homes and our homeschools, regardless of the curriculum we use, regardless of what choices we make, Father, that we would be following the voice of the Holy Spirit in our homes. I pray you would go before us like a pillar of fire. I pray that you would raise up discernment in our homes, that we would be able to hear you, Father, that we would know the voice that is yours and the voice that is not, and that our children would have discernment as well. God, we thank you for what you are doing, and we prophesy and speak that you are doing a move. You are moving, God, and we thank you that you are moving. We thank you that what you have started, you will be faithful to finish. And we ask you to be faithful to our children. We ask you to be faithful to us. We ask you that our children would rise up and follow you all the days of their life. And we pray, God, that you would just guide and direct us. We give you permission to guide and direct us, and that spouses would be in unity from this day forward on what they should do in their homeschools, with curriculum, with their children, with discipline. God, whatever it is, I pray for unity and new unity that would go forth from this online, not even in person, but from this moment, for the people that say yes, for the people that are crying out for unity with their spouse, so that together they can raise up kingdom children, kingdom culture, and experience it in their homes. I pray that in this moment, God, that you would come and you would move. Thank you for who you are. In your name we pray. Amen. Take the moment, go somewhere, go for a walk tonight when it's not blistering hot, and ask God what he wants you to do with what he's laid his finger on today, because I believe that God has actionable steps for us, and that as we walk in obedience in those actionable steps, as we walk in faith, that he is going to bring about breakthrough in our homes, our homeschools, our marriages, and our families. So I bless you, I bless you, I bless you.